5 daily habits secretly damaging your brain. Stop now. Your brain is your most valuable asset. It controls everything you think, feel, and do. But what if I told you that some of your everyday habits are silently sabotaging your cognitive health? These seemingly harmless routines are causing long-term damage that could affect your memory, focus, and mental clarity for years to come. The scariest part? Most people have no idea they're doing anything wrong. These habits feel normal, even productive sometimes. But neuroscience research has revealed the hidden dangers lurking in our daily patterns. Today, we're exposing 5 common habits that are secretly damaging your brain, and more importantly, what you can do to stop them right now. Habit number 1, chronic sleep deprivation. Let's start with the most widespread brain destroyer in modern society, not getting enough quality sleep. And I'm not just talking about the occasional late night. I'm talking about the chronic pattern of sleeping less than 7 hours, hitting snooze multiple times, or having fragmented, poor quality sleep night after night. Here's what's happening in your brain when you consistently skimp on sleep. During deep sleep, your brain activates a waste clearance system called the glymphatic system. Think of it as your brain's janitorial crew that comes in after hours to clean up the metabolic waste that accumulates throughout the day. This includes toxic proteins like beta amyloid, which is directly linked to Alzheimer's disease. When you cut your sleep short, this cleaning process gets interrupted. The toxic waste builds up in your brain tissue, and over time, this accumulation contributes to cognitive decline, memory problems, and potentially neurodegenerative diseases. Studies have shown that even a single night of poor sleep can increase beta amyloid levels in the brain. But the damage doesn't stop there. Sleep deprivation shrinks your hippocampus, the brain region responsible for forming new memories and learning. It impairs your prefrontal cortex, reducing your ability to make good decisions, control impulses, and think creatively. Chronic sleep loss has been linked to increased risk of depression, anxiety, and even early onset dementia. The fix seems obvious: get more sleep. But here's what actually works. Establish a consistent sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Create a wind-down routine that starts an hour before bed. No screens during this time. Keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. And if you struggle with racing thoughts, try a brain dump journal where you write down everything on your mind before bed. Habit number 2, constant multitasking and digital distractions. Now let's talk about something most of us do dozens, maybe hundreds times per day: switching between tasks and constantly checking our devices. We live in an age of perpetual distraction. You're working on a project, then a notification pings, you check your phone, respond to a text, glance at social media, return to work, remember an email you need to send, open another tab, and before you know it, your attention is scattered across 10 different things. Here's the brutal truth. Your brain cannot actually multitask. What you're really doing is task switching, rapidly shifting your attention from one task to another. And every single switch comes with a cognitive cost called attention residue. When you move from task A to task B, part of your attention remains stuck on task A. Your brain needs time to fully disengage and reorient, but we rarely give it that time. Research shows that this constant switching can reduce your productivity by up to 40%. But more concerning is what it does to your brain's structure. Studies using brain imaging have found that heavy multitaskers have less gray matter density in the anterior cingulate cortex, the region responsible for emotional control and decision-making. Essentially, chronic multitasking is physically changing your brain in ways that reduce your cognitive performance. The constant dopamine hits from notifications and task switching also rewire your reward system, making it harder to focus on tasks that require sustained attention. Your brain starts craving that next ping, that next novelty, creating a vicious cycle where deep focus becomes increasingly difficult. The solution requires intentional change. Practice single tasking by working in focused blocks. The Pomodoro technique works well here. 25 minutes of undivided attention on one task, followed by a 5-minute break. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Better yet, put your phone in another room when you need to focus. Use website blockers during work hours. And most importantly, train your attention like a muscle by regularly practicing activities that require sustained focus, whether that's reading a physical book, meditation, or engaging in a hobby that demands concentration. Habit number 3, sitting for extended periods without movement. Here's a habit that catches most people off guard: prolonged sitting. You might think physical inactivity mainly affects your body, your muscles, your cardiovascular system, but emerging research shows it's devastating for your brain too. When you sit for hours without moving, blood flow throughout your body decreases, including blood flow to your brain. Your brain is an energy-hungry organ, consuming about 20% of your body's oxygen and nutrients, despite being only 2% of your body weight. Reduced blood flow means reduced oxygen and glucose delivery, which impairs cognitive function in the short term and long term. A groundbreaking study found that even in healthy young adults, sitting for prolonged periods without breaks led to reduced blood flow to the brain and impaired memory function. Another study of middle-aged and older adults found that those who sat for longer periods had thinner medial temporal lobes, the brain region critical for forming new memories. The thinning was comparable to being several years older. But here's what makes this even more concerning. You can't just exercise for an hour and undo 8 hours of sitting. The research shows that breaking up sitting time throughout the day is crucial. Your brain needs regular movement, not just occasional intense activity.
The fix is simple, but requires building new habits. Set a timer to stand up and move every 30 minutes. It doesn't need to be intense exercise, just walking around your space, doing some stretches, or climbing a flight of stairs. Consider a standing desk or a walking treadmill desk for part of your day. Take walking meetings when possible. Park farther away. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. These micro movements throughout the day keep blood flowing to your brain and maintain cognitive function. Habit number 4, consuming a high-sugar, processed food diet. What you eat doesn't just affect your waistline, it directly impacts your brain health in profound ways. The standard modern diet, high in processed foods, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats, is silently damaging your brain with every meal. Let's start with sugar. When you consume high amounts of sugar, especially in processed forms, it triggers inflammation throughout your body, including in your brain. Chronic inflammation damages neurons, impairs the connections between brain cells, and has been linked to depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. Sugar also causes rapid spikes and crashes in blood glucose, which affects your mood, energy, and ability to concentrate. But here's something even more alarming. A diet high in sugar and processed foods actually shrinks your hippocampus. Multiple studies have shown that people who regularly consume junk food have smaller hippocampal volumes compared to those who eat healthier diets. Since the hippocampus is essential for learning and memory, this shrinkage has real consequences for your cognitive abilities. Processed foods also lack the nutrients your brain desperately needs. Your brain requires omega-3 fatty acids to build cell membranes and reduce inflammation. It needs B vitamins for neurotransmitter production. It needs antioxidants to protect against oxidative stress. When your diet consists primarily of processed foods, you're depriving your brain of these essential building blocks while simultaneously flooding it with inflammatory compounds. The solution is to gradually shift toward a brain-healthy diet. Focus on whole foods, fatty fish like salmon and sardines for omega-3s, leafy greens and colorful vegetables for antioxidants and vitamins, nuts and seeds for healthy fats, berries for their brain-protective compounds, and whole grains for stable energy. The Mediterranean diet has consistently been shown to protect against cognitive decline and support brain health. Start by making one meal per day brain healthy, then expand from there. Reduce your sugar intake gradually to avoid withdrawal symptoms. Read ingredient labels and avoid foods with long lists of chemicals you can't pronounce. And stay hydrated, as even mild dehydration impairs cognitive function. Habit number 5, chronic stress without recovery. The final brain-damaging habit is perhaps the most insidious because it often feels unavoidable. Chronic, unmanaged stress. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle, where being stressed and overwhelmed is almost a badge of honor, but your brain is paying a steep price. When you experience stress, your body releases cortisol, the stress hormone. In short bursts, cortisol is helpful. It sharpens your focus and prepares you for challenges. But chronic elevation of cortisol is neurotoxic. It literally kills brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. Studies have shown that people with chronic stress have measurably smaller hippocampal volumes. Chronic stress also disrupts neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections and adapt. It impairs memory formation, reduces emotional regulation, and increases your risk of anxiety and depression. The constant flood of stress hormones keeps your brain in a perpetual state of fight or flight, preventing the recovery and restoration it needs to function optimally. Here's what makes chronic stress particularly dangerous. It becomes self-reinforcing. Stress impairs the very brain regions that help you manage stress, creating a downward spiral that becomes harder to break the longer it continues. The solution isn't to eliminate stress entirely. That's impossible and actually undesirable. Instead, you need to build recovery practices into your daily routine. This means incorporating active stress reduction techniques like meditation, which has been shown to increase gray matter density in brain regions damaged by stress. Deep breathing exercises activate your parasympathetic nervous system, countering the stress response. Regular physical exercise burns off stress hormones and releases brain protective compounds. Spending time in nature has been shown to reduce cortisol levels and restore attention. Equally important is setting boundaries. Learn to say no to commitments that drain you. Protect time for activities that restore you. Connect with supportive relationships, as social connection is one of the most powerful stress buffers. And consider therapy or counseling if stress feels overwhelming, as professional support can provide tools and perspectives that help you break the cycle.